Tony Agostini has had to rely on his knowledge and skills on countless occasions in violent and often life-threatening confrontations. His strategies and concepts are the result of over 20 years martial arts experience, along with identifying what works in the real world of frontline security management in leading corporate and commercial industries, both protection assignments and the leisure industry since 1988. He is an approved and recommended trainer for over 50 London boroughs, including Westminster City Council, and has taught and certified over 1,000 security professionals, while currently working as a threat management and personal training consultant for one of the UK's leading risk management companies. Tony is recognised and documented in the media as taking martial arts into a new era, with the design and implementation of the concept of martial arts called self-protection strategies, putting reputation on the line in order to prove that age, gender, size and fitness should not inhibit anyone from learning self-defence. His personalised training programs were the feature of the ITV News, and he has given advice on self-defence to magazines, local radio stations and television with the BBC Kilroy programme. Channel 4 employed him as the only possible instructor to achieve the challenge of training an impossible candidate for the primetime television documentary called Faking It. The programme resulted in a complete success and was reviewed and regarded as a critic's choice in every national newspaper, with additional coverage in Europe, the United States and Australia. The combination of martial arts study incorporating black belt grades with 2 world titles on the reality of daily incidents, arresting offenders and the control of intoxicated, aggressive behavioural states led to distinguish between those techniques that are practical and applicable to today's real-life situations and those that are more ritualistic expressions of the ancient arts. With a range of joint destruction, limb manipulation and restraint holds, he is certified to teach a number of combative arts, including Muay Thai, the British Thai Boxing Council, and Jeet Kune Do in the Larry Hartsell of the Jeet Kune Do Jousting Association in Los Angeles, one of the few students of Bruce Lee continuing to teach the art of Jun Fan Jeet Kune Do today.
Control and restraint, locking techniques and finishing holds are all very effective and have to be adapted to the right environment to stay effective. In here there are rules. You can restrain somebody without the worry of another person coming and joining in the fight. But it does have to be pressure tested in the ring. Restraining somebody whilst they're trying to punch you is hard. Has to be tested here in the gym. Outside, completely different arena. There are still regulations. If in a working environment, you have to control somebody using reasonable force. Inflicting the minimum amount of injury. Control and restraint holds do this. They put you in control. I've been in the security industry since 1988. Had to deal with situations on a daily basis. I can tell you now, they'll keep you in the job, out of hospital and out of prison.
I follow a simple strategy called adapt, control and destroy. To adapt in martial arts is to adapt to the other fighter's style. If he's a kicker, I'll go close and box him. If he's a good puncher, perhaps I'll keep him at a distance and kick him. If he's a good kickboxer, I'll be up close, grappling with him. I'll take him to the ground and restrain him. However, that's adapting to the ring. How about adapting to the street or a social environment, like a nightclub or a pub? Ground holds are dangerous. If all you do is practice ground holds and you don't adapt to the environment, somebody else can come over and attack you. As much as the assailant is restrained, so are you. Remember that. So to adapt is to know the environment as well as the other person's fighting style. It's also to adapt your own style. You see, in the ring, this will be my stance. I'm protected. On the street, this is not the image I want to present, especially in front of witnesses. This is the image I want to present. To the attacker, it's submissive. To witnesses nearby, they'll say, well, one person was attacking, one person was aggressive, the other guy had his hands up, he was being submissive. But my strategy is this. Whilst I'm presenting this calming influence, I'm thinking this. I can react just as well from here as I can from here. This is adapting.
Adapting to your environment and adapting to your fighter means adapting to his fighting style. If he's a good kicker, like this, you're going to have trouble getting close to him. I'm going to try and kick back, then we're going to be staying at this range. So what I need to be doing is getting close, taking away his strengths. So that means intercepting the leg, taking him off balance. And down here, you can still hit. You can hit from this position, or you can turn him off balance. So here, we can then lock the ankle in, and you're in a solid position to fight him. He's at his weakest. So adapt to your fighter's style, take him to their weakest point. If your fighter is a boxer, very good up close, this could be a disadvantage to you. But if you can control his strength, so if he's punching, you can just carry it out, we're redirecting. That's the control stage of what we're doing. You go. From here, we take it to another level. We can half Nelson hold. You can't punch me from here. If I want to switch him round, I can bring him to here. I can punch. If we want to do this realistically, I can hold him here. Punch him this way. I can knee from here. I can go back to half Nelson. I can knee in the back. We're taking our fighter to his weakest range. I'll bring him round here, I can punch, and I can knee this way. Throw some hooks. I can wrap the arm here. Again, I can headbutt from this range. I can punch. He can punch me with that, but I can check him off. Move into a position here where if he tries to punch me, well, I can headbutt him and I can elbow. So I'm going to have more damaging strikes from here. Bang. I can also take him down if I need to. I can roll into a position where I can punch while I'm holding him. If he tries to roll away and turn his back on me, I'm going to keep him trapped. I put my foot across his body and his waist. From here, I can hit. If he tries to protect himself, I can come back up, put my knee on him, hit from this position. Okay? These holds put you in control. And get back up. I often say finishing holds, joint locks, a bit like having tools in a toolbox. If all you have is a hammer, you're only going to know how to hit things. You're going to be a bit more versatile and varied in your techniques. Be able to adapt.
Control. To control is simply to control the attacker's fighting options, to limit his fighting options. So, to control a punch like this, let's say we have a reference point, and I'm going to use the outside of his elbow as a reference point. I'm in control just from this basic position. Even if I just grabbed this arm, as crude as I could, if I just grabbed it and stayed here, this is a controlled position because I know he can't elbow me. His elbow's locked. He can't elbow with the other hand. He can't punch with the other hand because I can push him off balance. I know where this arm is and I know where that arm is. He can't headbutt me because it's too far away, requires a close range technique. And he can't bite me. He might be able to kick, but if he does, it requires that he turns his hips because at the moment I'm side on and he would have to turn. Now, another point of control is to control his stance. And I can do this by simply foot trapping. I step on his foot. This limits his movement. This is control. The next part is called destruction. The level of destruction depends on the scenario. If it's in the ring, my control will be just to hold him and pin him. If it's at work, I'll have to hold him, but all within the confines of reasonable force. If it's a street situation and it's self-defense and there are other people involved that could be attacking me, I have to finish this as quick as possible. That means from this reference point, I can't stay here too long. I have to move to a point which will finish him. Let's say I move to his fingers. From here, I can break the fingers. This will take a moment. If he has friends, I can then deal with them. But one thing's for sure, this guy's out of the fight. What I limit from here is fighting options. I can also limit his movement. This is the control stage. Trap his foot. I'll control the takedown. This means I know exactly where he's going. All I do is I push forward. He's simply off balance as I step through. Now the level of destruction from this point onwards depends on where we are. I can drop my knee down to the side. I can hold him here. I can break his elbow. I can break his fingers. It all depends on the situation. To break someone's limb would mean we have to be in a high threat situation. It means I have to take this guy out of the fight so I can deal with someone else. In a security situation, I'll purely control him. I'll move him over onto your front, then I mount from the back. This is a basic arrest hold. I can then secure him with either handcuffs or cable ties. I can ask him to give me his other hand, and we have a secure position here. So like I say, the strength can now be applied. This would be adapting to a law enforcement situation or environment where I don't have to worry about being attacked from behind because perhaps I've got cover watching my back. In a ring situation, the vale tudo, where anything goes, we'd basically be in this position and I'll be able to hit from here. This is a hit and hold position, suitable for those mixed martial artists that like to continue to fight on the ground. That is my principle of adapt, control and destroy. Lock flows allow you to move from one point of the body to another in one continuous motion. If you're taught locks and you're taught them in single illustrations, then you're going to try and find those locks, and it's impossible to do that in a real fight. For example, how do you pick up someone's fingers or their wrist if they're bowling punches at you? It's difficult. If you find a reference point like the elbow or the large torso, then you can move from the waist or the elbow to something like the fingers or the wrist. But you need to know how to do it in flow. That's what a lock flow is. It gets you from one point of the body to another. It could be as damaging or as humane as possible. First of all, we'll use the fingers. The first lock I'll take from a grab. Someone grabs you here. First of all, I'm going to use my right hand. I'm going to come over and reach his last two fingers. By using this hand, if he was going to punch me, I'm protected behind my elbow. But it's going to be instantaneous because as soon as I get these fingers, down they go. Now I'm applying pressure along the seam of his arm. If there was a seam which run from the middle of his finger straight down this bone, separating the front from the back of his arm, that is the way I'm going. And for illustration purposes, the way that I point is the direction that I want him to go. The second lock would be if I actually wanted him to go backwards or take him down. I simply turn, and again, the way I point is the direction that he goes. At any point, should he stop moving, or should I stop him moving by putting my foot on his? Well, his fingers are going to go one way, he will stay still. This is a break. Only break the limb if it's essential to do that. Next is what I call a split finger lock. Two fingers are grasped. We pull apart and down to take our man to the floor. It's a very effective controlled hold. The second lock we can actually move into, and it's for escorting. So from here, it's an inverted double finger lock. Notice how his palm is on my chest, and I use my chest as a brace. And as I push in, I can walk the assailant if I need to. In a threat situation, I won't stay here. I can just break. The second came back to the split finger and then moved to double inverted. Again, notice how I stabilise his wrist, and I'm pushing, rotating around. This rotation. If I want to walk him and free up my right hand, I simply insert my left, grasp his wrist, and I can walk him from here. The next lock is a pop down. It's called a figure 4 two finger. I can insert, and this is another walking hold. I can walk the assailant to and from different places. For the last, I bring the fingers out, and this is another walking position. I can also foot trap, and I can also insert pressure points underneath his armpit. Okay? Those are the finger locks series. The wrist lock series starts with an outside wrist lock or an outer wrist lock, moving to the outer side of his centre line. I'm using the thumb to control and applying pressure down on his fingers. All these locks serve a purpose, either to move, to take down, or to open the grasp of a fist. This is perfect if he has a weapon. From here, I can take the wrist out once I've got pain compliance, it's easy to remove the weapon. The second lock, I use his thumb to guide to the outside. I'm now applying pressure again down the seam of his arm. This is a definite takedown. If you want to take your man to the floor, if he doesn't go, it will break his wrist. If he was to walk forward, this is actually lock number 3. This is why we flow, because now I have a V-arm wrist lock. Same principle applies. Again, very effective if he has something in his hand and it's held in this position, up close. I can simply grasp it here and apply pressure down. Very quick release. If it's non-weapon related and he simply holds me by the throat or the clothing, again I'll reach over, I'll turn inwards and I'll apply pressure down, taking our man to the floor. The next lock is if I want to bring him forward. I simply insert up, hold onto my own hand, and as I turn, his arm is braced against my arm, and this is what bends him over for the leverage. From here, if I want to bring him back upright again, I can escort him up this way into a wrist lock. That is very painful, and it's another escort hold for walking. I'm not applying pressure down, it's not a compression, although that hurts, it's a rotation. Notice how I rotate his wrist toward me. That is where the pain is, that is the break point. Now from here, we can move into elbows and shoulder locks. For the purpose of lock flow, I can insert underneath his arm and move to a shoulder lock. Again, perfect for escorting somebody. An ideal situation for those who just want to end it quickly would be just to maneuver this person into an object or move straight to his neck. This is the ability of flowing. You can move from the arm to the neck if you need to. But from here, what I'm going to do is move into what's called a hammer lock, hammer and wrist. Now, if I don't want to keep him here and I want to bring him back upright, I simply move down to his thumb, I bring the arm under, and I have him in a thumb compression. Notice as I keep his thumb here, I pull down on his hand. Again, this is for compliance. You'll notice he might be going up on his toes. You know you have pain compliance when he does this. A great walking hold. With all of these locks, you gain compliance. If he can't fight back, if he tries to fight back, we take control. This is the control stage. Destruction is, I simply break. Only if it's life-threatening, and I need to do that. An elbow wrench. In reality, the real situation would be, I snap this up. Again, this is great if he has a weapon in his hand. From here, I work to an elbow trap. I elbow trap by coming over his arm and underneath his elbow. If he has a weapon, I've secured it. Just for the point of reference, I want to make a note that the palm is up on this lock. If the palm is down, it's not being applied correctly. You've lost the elbow. So you want to turn the palm up. This ensures the elbow is facing down. And should you come underneath, that's where the lock is. Some people actually have trouble with this if the opponent is larger, has bigger arms. They have trouble getting underneath. So what I suggest is if you can't reach your own forearm, because this is the secure position, simply grasp hold of your clothing. Still apply the hold effectively. The next lock on top of this is what I call a body brace. If I'm here and he rolls away, I've lost the lock. So I simply press my body against his elbow. We flow from one lock to another. If from this position he wanted to try and escape, he would probably try and pull his arm away in a curling motion. If he was to curl, I would go with his energy and curl him into a bent wrist lock. Notice again how I grasp onto my wrist for the compression. From here, if I want to take him down, I simply go past with my elbow, past his shoulder. This is a takedown. Or, for those who like to strike as well, they can simply elbow from here. The next lock is what I call an arm wrap. This is an arm wrap. You can pick up an arm wrap from simple self-defense situations, such as if throws a hook. I can block, then I can arm wrap here. Very simple to grab. You see a lot of boxers do this. They'll hold, then they'll punch from here. What I like to do is, once I'm in this position, push back on the shoulder so that he can't punch me there. Step to the side so that he can't hit me. Then I can actually hit him, and I'm in a very dominant position. If he straightens the arm wrap, then I have an elbow trap. I simply push onto his shoulder and I lock the elbow. That is a secure hold. I can also turn and I can punch from this position and go back. If he goes to hit me with that hand, pain compliance stops him. If I wanted to, I can actually check off that shoulder and grasp onto this arm. And this is the position we end up in. Similar to the last, but slightly improvised. For the environment, it's all about adaptation. Now, if from here I want to take his neck, I know how to flow. I pass the arm and I move to his neck, to a half Nelson. Half Nelson holds are easy to pick up. If he's the sort of person who throws in bowling overhand rights, I can pass, I can come up here, and I have a half Nelson. Very easy. I've used this so many times on the door. For those that like to bowl punches in at me, I've just slipped inside and ended up here. A dominant position for strikes, such as knee strikes. We can come up and we can knee here to the front. We can turn and we can knee to the back. From here, we can also go for a full Nelson hold, which takes both his arms. Now, the time I've used this has either been to escort people that don't require much pain compliance, because it really moves people off balance. The way to walk with this is if I'm walking forward in this way, but he's stepping sideways. You see? Should I try and walk forward or back? He can just kick me backwards. Kick back. Kick back with your feet. There. If I'm walking in this direction, every time he picks his foot up to try and kick me, do so, he's going to lose balance. Perfect for doorman. This is a perfect hold. I've also used this against someone that had a knife in his waistband. I held him here, and he couldn't retrieve the knife from his waistband because I had both arms up. If the situation warrants it, we can actually move to a sleeper hold. I brace my arm across his neck. I insert it into my bicep and I curl up. As I curl up, it restricts his airway. This is if the assailant is non-respondent because he's on drugs, for example. There are situations where, you can't control somebody because they're on so many mind or behavioural state ordering drugs that, they could probably think they could run through a brick wall, not feel every bone in their body getting broken. Extremely dangerous types. The only way to stop them is not to hit them. The only way to stop them is to restrict their airway and then release. From here, we can move from the sleeper hold to what I call the cobra. This is the cobra hold. I wrap the arm round. Notice how I grasp on to my own forearm, and then I squeeze. Pressure is being applied from my forearm on one side to my wrist on the other, like so. Again, this slows down the blood flow and should put him to sleep. Again, another great hold if you're dealing with someone who's out of their head on drugs, basically out of control. From here, I have another variation of the cobra hold. It's a simple arm wrap. This can be picked up from the same position where you're not actually applying any pressure on the neck. It's purely for the purpose of takedown, because what I will do is push back, and this is our takedown. It's also a great position again for striking, because from here we can hit, we can elbow. Okay? I'll bring him back up. Should I want to choke him from this position, I insert through the gap of his arm, straight through this way, underneath his chin, and notice again how I lock on to my forearm, and I squeeze. To take down, I will simply step behind and bend him over to this position. I don't take him down all the way, mind. I just hold him here. Back up again. The next is simply arm and neck hold. Now the time this will be picked up is if somebody attacks you and tries to grab you around the waist or tries to grab you around the legs. You simply pass and we have a hold here. You also have from this position a choke hold. Notice my forearm goes underneath his chin, like so. I don't go up on my toes, I lean back. This restricts his airway, like so. The next hold is called a figure 4 headlock. So this is the guillotine. He could counter the guillotine choke simply by tucking his chin down. Tuck your chin down. If he tucks his chin down, I can't bar across his airway. So what I can do is bring his face up, hold on to his shoulder for support. As I do so, very short range of motion. This takes nothing. Every time I just twitch, that's the response we get, pain compliance. From here, I can move into a reverse full Nelson hold. Again, a very secure hold. This is best picked up if someone tries to grab you around the waist, or a rugby tackle. He comes in, I simply sprawl, I bring his arms up and I secure him here. From here, I stretch him out, his ribs are open, I can knee. Or I can drive him backwards into an object. It all depends on the situation. What I have here is a head control where I grasp the chin and I crank up. This can be done in a controlled fashion or it can be done in a tearing fashion. I actually used this when I was attacked by two onto me at work. I used one person as a barrier against the others, purely by manoeuvring them around in this fashion. You have striking options from here. You can knee, you can elbow, you can bring the head up this way. This is called a head control. I have a reverse head control where I simply go underneath the chin and I push back, arching his spine. From here, I brace underneath his neck, and again notice how I interlock onto my forearm to compress. From here, I have a reverse clinch position. I bring my forearms in tight, I grasp on to his chin. This is a reverse clinch position. This is ideal for knee strikes. It's a complete controlled position. It's very easy to take the man down from here. Simply just bring him back off balance. The final hold in this sequence is what I call a reverse guillotine. I reach forward, I trap the neck underneath my armpit, I stand upright and I lean back. Very dangerous position. Only use this if you need to. You can again knee strike from here, and the takedown from this position would purely be to drop to the floor. If you work in any industry where you deal with members of the public, chances are you're going to have to control aggressive behaviour. This could be whether you're a supervisor, manager, or more importantly, security officer, security guard, store detective. Even in hospitals, you need to control unruly and aggressive behaviour. But this is why the controlled holds don't just control the upper portion of the opponent's anatomy, but their movement as well. If I was just to step on his foot, I have a foot trap. By pushing him forward, he loses balance. Very simple and straightforward. I can bring him back to his feet by operating a finger hold. Off of any of these locks, I simply step on his foot and he's off balance. There's a need for controlled takedowns. I couldn't do a dynamic throw or sweep if we were in a main road situation. You might go underneath a bus, fall into incoming traffic. You have to ask yourself, what is the environment and can I adapt to it? That's the whole point of adaptation. We adapt, then we control. I can step on his foot with either of my feet. If it's this side, I step forward, I take him down. Step across. Finishing holds are what come next. Arrest holds. I keep him pinned so he can't look up. His arms straight. This is an arrest hold. We can now wait until the police arrive. His other arm's trapped. If I want compliance, I just grasp his fingers. Okay, you're going to comply. If, from this position, I've got control and compliance, I simply bring him back up to his feet. On your feet, sir. On your feet. And I can walk him. And we're back to these positions again. To take down from this position, I simply step on his foot. I pivot. Down he goes. I step over. I have him in this position here. Control. I might want to roll him onto his front. Onto your front. I can mount from the back. Give me your other hand, sir. Give me your other hand. We have our rest position again. Here. We can hold him or cuff him if need be. They are all effective, and although they administer pain, non-life threatening. The techniques you've got will be more of a hindrance than an asset if you can't adapt them to the environment. Now, in an environment like this, a pub scenario, any security professional has to assess the environment and adapt to it. Adapting means identifying other threats. Ashtrays, glasses, empty bottles all become incidental weapons. They'll become ammunition in the wrong hands. So if you've got to escort a person out at any point, move these first. If he questions what you're doing, just going to move this away for you, mate. Just going to take the empties away, okay? I'm constantly staying on what I'm doing. I'm going to engage in eye contact anyway to see what level of behaviour he's giving back. Is he hostile? Is he staring? Or are his eyes glazed in any way? So we've got to assess their behavioural state. Now the thing is, he may actually be holding the glass, which he doesn't want to give up. He has a little bit of drink left in it. So I'm going to say, come on mate, time to go. Now notice I'm approaching from the side that he's holding the glass. I want to point out now that if I approached from the opposite side, which has actually been a common mistake for a lot of doormen, a lot of security personnel, they're coming from this angle and the glass has been thrown up into their face. There have been thousands of incidents of glasses, and a lot of it could have been removed. So we're going to approach from the side that is holding the weapon. This way. Hello mate, time to go. If he ignores me, be it verbal or he just says nothing, the next stage is any sudden reactions with his right arm. I'm just going to keep pressed to the table. I can then remove the glass by keeping his wrist pressed and just peeling this out. Then from here, I'll just go back to his hand. I can bring the fingers into play and get him up onto his upright position. Or if I'm holding him and I remove the glass this way, can take the last two fingers on your feet, mate. We have an inverted two-finger straight arm bar, and I can walk him out. If you take a seat there. The main thing is getting this out of his hand. Once this is gone, the flex reduce. If you're dealing with bottles, he can have a stronger grip on what he's holding. They're not as bulky as pint glasses, so we've got to look at how he might be holding it. Same principle applies though. I approach from the side. This is what I call my safety zone. I grasp onto his wrist and the thumb area. That way, any sudden movements, bring it up, just press it back down to the table. That's the first thing I'm doing. Now, if he's holding it by the base of the bottle, what I do is use the neck as a lever, and I just prise this out of his hand. Now hold that really tight. Okay, there we go. Very quick release. Hold it really tight. There. Okay, if he's holding it by the neck of the bottle, you've got nothing to grasp, I'm going to go for the base. Same principle applies though. I keep the wrist straight and the thumb. And the reason I'm holding this is because if I don't, and I go to take this out, the wrist is flexible and I'm not going to take it. Hold it still, and I use the bottle as a lever. So if you notice what I'm doing, I'm just pushing up towards his thumb. Like I said, hold it really tight, and it's out. Now depending on how I'm holding him, if I'm holding him with my left hand, once this is gone, I'll bring my right hand over, I'll take his fingers, and I'll bring him up into a straight arm bar. Again, I use my chest as a brace here, and I can walk him. Come back. Sit down. Just hold the bottle one more time. If I don't hold him with my left, but I approach from the right, so I'm one hand on the shoulder, one hand here, I'll come around this way, and I'll disarm from the inside instead of the outside. Same principle. I keep the wrist straight, and I remove the bottle. This goes over, the palm is turned up, and we'll use the elbow trap on your feet. And sit down again. Finally, if at any point before I get the elbow lock, he tries to get up, I can actually use my arm to keep him trapped down. It's a body trap, so I'll keep him here. Get back up again. Right, stay there, mate. Alright, just stay there. Calm down. Right, let me secure our position. Okay? I can also take him forward if I need to, or just walk him out. And obviously, because we can flow from one lock to the other, I can move down his arm and keep that distance with the finger pressure. Okay. So, technique is nothing if you can't apply it and adapt it to the right environment. Adapting to your environment means understanding the safety zones, where you limit the opponent or the customer's options for hitting you. Anywhere on the outside of the arm works. If I'm here, and at any point if I should say, come on mate, it's time to go. If you want to throw a hook at me, bring him off balance. Put that down. This works for anyone who's standing or anyone in an upright position on a stool, perhaps. Very simple movement, okay? Have his elbow here. As long as I'm here, I know he can't headbutt me, he can't knee. All he can do is throw a punch from the opposite side. The distance it takes that to travel means he has to turn his body towards me. As soon as he turns to punch, I'll cancel it out by pushing forward. Simple, basic movement. One more time, because we want to follow up from there. All right, time to go. Oh. Right, stay there. Now, in this position, I keep him pressed. I can move to an elbow restraint. This will control him for a moment. From here, I'm going to need to walk him. So what we do is we flow to a walking position. I'll bring this down and up into the crook of my arm. We have an escort hold. Well, mate, this way. And now I can walk him out. I need to walk him upright, or in any other position, I'll get the fingers. Here we go. Insert figure 4. This position. Okay. This is Dave Dobson. Dave has seen scenes from both sides of the bar. He's currently the licensee of the Blind Beggar in East London,
and prior to that was an East London doorman for 10 years. Dave, how have things changed over the last few years?
I think they've changed considerably, door-wise especially. I mean, there's all different licences regarding you doing the job, and also doing it as well. I mean, now everything's controlled. Plus there's a lot of drugs around these days, which makes the job difficult because it makes it difficult to get somebody out if they're high up on top of it. Around here, I have relatively small amounts of problems, but when I do get them, it can escalate quite a big, problem. But you have to think on your feet. When I've dealt with things, following the techniques, that you've done, in this video, they've worked well for me and I've done very well with them.
Thanks, Dave. A lot of it's about adapting to the environment. I mean, you said, you've told me some stories.
Oh, yeah.
And, when you have to adapt to your environment, when it was on the door, there were things you had to do. Yeah,
we had a club called, it was called Fatty Arbuckle. It was a very, very rough house, and we had actually fish hooks under our collars. So if somebody actually grabbed hold of you, to nut you or whatever, you'd have them, and you could have a few minutes with them before anyone else got on top of you, sort of thing. And they couldn't get away, so you could teach off these things.
I think that enforces the principle of adapt, control, and destroy.
Whoa! Get your hands off me. You're not really any problems, is it?
You guys chill out a bit, right? Hey, enough of that. Enough of that. What do you think you're doing?
What am I doing? I don't know yet. Put your hands where I can see them, alright? Get your hands off me, I said.
Alright, what's this?
My bucket top. Alright? Keep your hands up and see them. Calm down. You don't get caught up there. I'll make the hands down, calm down, alright? I'll bring more money up. Good. Don't give me that, right? No! I only showed you a few techniques today which are of a larger grouping of techniques. They all come from experience, they've all been tried, they've all been tested. Now, I come from an industry where the use of a flashlight can often be used, be it night watchmen, store detectives working at night, security guards, store supervisors. If you've not trained to restrain somebody with the use of a mag light, then there are safer ways of controlling them than physically striking them. This is just a couple that we've got. If it's a fly punch, I can use it to block. I can also use it to control. Control being the key word here. If I want to bring him up, I can go to a neck hold, come along. He can still breathe, and I'm just walking him from one position to another. If I want to move down his arm, I can do so again. And if I want to take the wrist, simple. I just clamp on. To bring him back upright, here we go. Simple escort hold. I don't have to batter him to be in control. You're going to come into contact with aggressive members of the public in all walks of your life, whether it's at work or in a social context. Remember, the most important thing is to stay in control.